This is going to be a look at one of the elements of the Ravens offense that I kind of wonder if it's missing, if it has been abandoned a little bit in the playbook, is the RPO, the run pass option play. I'm not talking about option plays where Lamar reads a D end and either gives it to the running back or keeps it and runs around the edge himself. I'm talking about Lamar and the running back meshing, Lamar possibly giving it to the running back behind some pulling linemen, or Lamar keeping the football and then throwing it out to the flats or throwing a snag, which I haven't seen us complete the snag concept yet off the RPO look. So I've got two plays for you here, both of them against the Bills. Now, the first one's going to be this penalty against Daniel Falele, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then the second one is going to be a give to the running back, to J.K. Dobbins. I think the RPO needs to be utilized more for many reasons. Number one, Lamar's great at reading it. Number two, I think it helps us attack defenses horizontally, which we're not stretching teams vertically a whole lot right now. And if you don't stretch teams horizontally and you don't stretch teams vertically, then the area of the field that the defense has to worry about is really compressed and condensed. And some people have described that in different words in the past year or so, particularly in the offseason, talking about the Ravens, only targeting over the middle of the field. I think that's a little bit of a generalization, but those people who are making those points, it's grounded in reality, in truth, if you ask me. So let's take a look at the first RPO, and it's going to be out of the pistol. We normally do not run the RPO out of the pistol. Most teams do not. It's not that it's impossible to do. It's just a different angle. So we got motion coming across left to right to Duvernay. And this is a little bit of a variation off of a classic Greg Roman concept from 2019. So I'm going to pull this back a little bit so where you can see Duvernay motion. One of the things we used to do with Hayden Hurst and Nick Boyle and even Andrews was motion a guy through and let him run the wheel. I don't know if you guys, that's not cut off, no. And then there'd be a second guy coming through post snap, usually from a slot position here, who would slide out into the flats, into that vacated area that motion man cleared out, essentially, with his wheel route. Now, this is a variation off of it because, I say this is a variation off of it because, in this case, Andrews is on the right. He's on the same side that the motion is going toward. In 2019, especially against the Patriots, we would do this, run the wheel, and then, like I said, it would come from a slot position on this side, off the play action, all right? Now, this is off an RPO. So we're leaving that D end unblocked. We're also pulling the tackle away. So we're giving these guys that same look that we use on that counter wind back play, where Lamar opens to this side and the running back starts on that side and then veers back behind some pulling linemen. The only problem with this is Ricard's not on the field. Okay, so I'm saying we need to run the RPOs more often. However, I think defenses kind of understand if Ricard's not on the field, it's probably not a run play, and that needs to change. That needs to change. So in any case, you've got a mesh here between Lamar and the running back. Now, you can say what you wish about whether this should be a give or a keep. I mean, a friend of mine says this should have been a give, and then we got the lead there, and we got the wind back with the possible option of running it out here because you've got Moses. This is Taron Johnson, spectacular football player, but that's a mismatch in our favor in the B gap. In any case, Lamar keeps it, throws it out in the flats to Andrews, and you got the wheel route by Duvernay acting as a clear out route. Isaiah Likely was over here kind of running this little slant, and we've really isolated Milano as the boundary side inside linebacker, the boundary side defender. We're out formationing the Bills a little bit here. What I mean by out formationing them is we've got twins receivers, so that kind of forces them to have, a corner, a safety, and then the nickel defender, which is Taron Johnson. So 3 over 2 to the field. That's your classic nickel overhang defender. I say to the field, the ball's actually in the middle of the field. But we're still out formationing them because of the twins to one side and Ricard to the other. So when we motion to this side, it really stresses Milano. And just so you guys know, this is the same thing the Bengals are going to do. Away from the nickel defender. So this is the nickel again. Away from the nickel, we go motion. The linebacker is going to step out. Pratt is going to do that. Maybe Wilson sometimes. It's the same thing they're going to do. The Bills and the Bengals are cut from the same cloth. They are not going to rotate the secondary. They're not going to, on motion, roll a safety down, roll this guy back to center field, roll this guy back to thirds. That's not the way they handle things typically. I've seen them do that occasionally, but it's not very often. So RPO out of the pistol, they get our guy Falele for being downfield. He's a little bit further downfield than I thought in a reaction video. It's one of those things that isn't called that much. He's run blocking because he's down blocking here for the possibility of the ball being give to JK. I think that's JK, and then running off to the backside. So I've exhausted this one. If I covered it too much in too much detail, forgive me for that. It's RPO out of the pistol. I love the play, love the concept. Away from the nickel defender, reading this D end at first and understanding that inside linebacker right there, according to the rules of the Bills and even the Bengals defense, if the nickel defender is on the other side, if he does not have the nickel defender outside of him, he gets motion to him, he's going to widen up and go with someone. In this case, he goes with Andrews out in the flats. You don't get a great view of it, but it's like a 7 or 8 yard gain. So positive play. Love the concept. Essentially lining up in a 2-by-2 formation, motioning to trips, running the RPO to the trip side. This is kind of the opposite. We're lined up in trips, and you've got an RPO look. We're conceptually, in some ways, we're doing the same thing I just showed you. We've got the nickel defender, and we're attacking away from the nickel defender. Now, you can say, well, Coach, they still got a squat corner down here, and they still got a safety. This is true. We're trying to overwhelm them numbers-wise with Ricard in motion, and we're pulling the right guard and right tackle. Please let me know if you guys do not like it when I click to restart the play. If it's too abrupt, I'll try to find a different player, a different video player. I don't want things to be abrupt changes, but I can't tell you guys each time I'm going to restart it. This is the way coaches watch film, players watch film. We're pulling the right guard and right tackle. Ricard's in motion. You can see we got a hat for a hat. And the guy who ends up, getting first contact is this safety spinning down. That's what we want. That's a good thing. We want him spinning down here. 7 yard gain by Dobbins off the RPO. In my opinion, we got to run this stuff more often because look what you have. I'm gonna do some numbers. Football's really about numbers. We had this conversation. Frank, Walter, living legend, myself, and maybe a couple of guys. I can't remember who. In the Discord last night about numbers. It's really just numbers. All right, we've got 2 receivers up here to the top side, and they've got 3. Again, 3 over 2, with the third guy being the nickel defender. We have a third offensive player who's not involved in this run play. It's the quarterback. The problem for the Bills numerically is they've also got a fourth player, the DN that we're reading, the DN that we're deciding whether to give off of or keep. Now, the Bengals typically are not going to do what this DN does here. The Bengals are typically going to have this guy run down the line of scrimmage, force a keep read by Lamar. In this case, and the Bills do that sometimes as well. In this case, for whatever reason, the call was such that they had the DN go upfield, force a give read by Lamar if you accept that he is reading it. And you can see the numbers that are created. Ricard going in motion. Goes and gets the corner. I hope y'all can't hear my son Howard in the background. And then you got the right guard and right tackle pulling to go get Milano, the linebacker. And then Moses is trying to go get the safety because Falele has already gone up and got Edmonds. So there's a lot of arrows and lines on that screen. Forgive me for that. 7 yard gain. Dobbins, off the left side. Sets a physical tone. Attacks them, again, where? Away from the nickel defender. The Bengals are going to spend a lot of time in their 4-2 nickel because Von Bell, Jesse Bates, their safeties are talented, tough. They tackle similar to Taron Johnson. They don't have the same length as Taron Johnson, but they got the same skill set. And I think really highly of those guys, too. Look at the numbers as we come through here that we've created. Going away from trips. Again, Falele and Powers is comboing this D tackle up to the backside inside linebacker. The front side inside linebacker is going to get blocked by, I think that's Zeitler. And then Moses, this is the last guy pulling through here. He would try to go get the safety. We weren't able to get to him. But you can see JK allowing the pulling lineman to get out in front of him. Look at him hesitate some, letting those blocks get set up. Just a smart player. This is a play concept that I don't know why we're not running more often. Away from the nickel defender, forcing these badass defensive ends to try to figure out how to play this. Some of these guys would get upfield some, and that would just almost in some ways create an even bigger seam because it'd be a shorter edge. Sometimes a shorter edge is not a good thing. To elongate or stretch out the edge sometimes is a really good thing. Zeitler with a pretty good block on Milano. I now see why Moses didn't get to the safety, because he's helping out on Milano. We're trying to set a tone with him. Great play. Let me know what you think of the two concepts I showed you. RPOs. One example was Lamar keeping it, where a friend of mine who's a coach said, hey, that should have been a give. Okay, whatever. Sometimes you read it pre-snap, right? And the second one was a give to Dobbins. Again, maybe it was a pre-snap read. Maybe Lamar understood what the Bills were and were not going to do. Creating 3-by-1 formations and running RPOs out of it, either using motion or not, if you ask me, is something that could get us some extra yards against the Bengals, could allow some of the complementary players to generate some yards, generate some first downs, take less pressure off Lamar, Mark Andrews, and Duvernay, because it sounds like we're not going to have Bateman available. Appreciate you guys checking the video out. Let me know if you think I missed any elements or if I covered, the two plays too much. I know that the video went on long for just talking about two plays, but when I find some plays and some concepts that I think are unique and that Baldy's breakdowns didn't cover, I kind of feel required, or I kind of feel compelled to share that with you, because there's so many plays I have to go double check his videos, make sure he didn't use a play, so I'm free to use it and then generate some revenue for myself. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of my breakdown of the RPOs, and if you think it might be possible for us to use it against the Bengals 5 or 6 times instead of the 2 or 3 we use it against the Bills.